Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Alaska SeaLife Center for another virtual visit. You'll have to let me know how the audio is. I have a feeling that our kittiwakes are going to throw a little wrench in our program today. They are up on the cliffs and they are busy building nests. Now, we're not going to be talking about the kittiwakes today, but we are going to be talking about a little bit of nest building, a little bit of breeding plumage going on in the aviary nowadays. But if you hear them, that's what's going on. They just like to scream whenever the camera's not on them. Those are our red-legged kittiwakes. And as you saw, there's the camera swung on by. We've got Taylor running the computer today. And as always, my name is Alex. So welcome back to another virtual visit. We have to thank our sponsors for these every time. We love that Royal Caribbean Group has made it possible for us to bring these to you live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Alaska time. We've got about another month of these coming, another couple programs, and then we'll be getting into our summer season. So we hope to see you a couple more times at least for our virtual visits. And today would have been a nice day if not for the wind. It's very beautiful out there. This is our sunrise, again, starting at about 8:30, so the sun is already well up this time of year for us. And it didn't even make it all the way to 10:30. We're going to let this loop on through. It's a little short today, and that's because on these really sunny days, it's overheating our camera, the camera that we're using to capture these time lapses. So it's cutting it a little bit short. But as you can see, just a gorgeous day out there on Resurrection Bay. But here in the aviary, we're still in the shade. The sun hasn't really poked into the aviary just yet, and it's a little windy. So what we're going to be talking about today, of course, are our alcids. You might say, hold on, Alex, the title for this said the Puffin episode. So puffins are in a group of birds called alcids, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Here at the SeaLife Center, we have more than just our puffins. We have a couple other alcids, and I've got a little handy cam. We're going to try and find some out there. Of course, we also have some footage of them nice and clear because they like to hide when I get the camera out here. But it's a very exciting time of year. As you can hear from the kittiwakes, breeding season is coming, which means they've got to get in their breeding plumage. This is their most colorful plumage. They're going to look really, really fancy, right? When people come here in the winter, they see our puffins and they go, where are your puffins? Because our puffins kind of lose all that color and they just get sort of drab looking in coloration. But the summer, the breeding season, is when they kind of turn into those little clowns of the sea, the puffins. And they've got the bright orange bills, black and white colors, a little bit of coloration up on the head as well. So we'll see that because our puffins have started finally getting into their breeding plumage. If you've tuned in for our other aviary episodes, you know that we saw our ducks already, our sea ducks here, like our eiders, the harlequin, the smew, and we looked at those, and they were pretty colorful then because they do it a little bit earlier. But for our puffins, they've just started finishing, and in fact, one of the types of puffins here, they're still not done. They're still going to look a little bit dusty, a little soot-faced when we're looking at them. So we're going to kick on over into our handheld camera. I'm going to walk on over there and try to find a puffin for you. We're going to start with some puffins. And lucky us, it is bath time right now in the aviary. So I'm going to zoom on in. We've got some tufted puffins right here. So people love to see the tufted puffins here at the SeaLife Center. And of course, they are named tufted puffins because of those tufts on the back of their head. It's not that they're tough, they're not like super strong puffins, although they are pretty critters. They don't have the most graceful of landings, so I'm always kind of impressed watching them come in. Some tufted, Tufted, and that's for these blonde, that kind of look like little ponytails, little pigtails coming off the back of their head. Those are still feathers, so these are special feathers that they look fancy. One was just preening itself, which is how they clean their feathers. So the tufted puffins have finished their molt for the most part. There's a couple out there with dark faces still, but about the puffins is they get this white face mask in for breeding season. Now we do have. I'm looking around to see if I can find it. We have a couple juvenile tufted puffins. I'm going to have to keep my eyes peeled for them to show you what they look like because they don't get this bright coloration. For the first couple years of their life, they're just going to kind of look a little drab. Now I'm going to find your other type of puffin here real quick. That is your horned puffin. So these are the two Pacific puffins that we have here at the Alaska SeaLife Center. There's also a third type of puffin called it's the Atlantic puffin. Full name there. It's over on the other SeaLife Center. But The horned puffins have not yet finished. Horned puffins have not yet finished their molt. So as you can see, that white has not some clips of our puffins here, so that we can see them nice and clearly. So you can see they're going to get that stark white face mask, and the reason they are horned puffins, just like the tufted puffins are tufted puffins because of their tufts, the horned puffins are horned puffins because of those little horns above their eyes. You can see here they love to just kind of hang out. There's a little preview of another alcid we're going to talk about in the back there, if you caught it. So that horn that grows in, that's actually a little fleshy growth. It grows above their eye. It comes in for breeding season in the summer, and then it'll kind of fade away again as we go into the winter, or as we leave breeding season. And you can see they are adorable in this color, and I think this is what people kind of expect when they come to the SeaLife Center. People love to see the very colorful puffins, but the thing is because they're only this sort of color in the summertime, in breeding season, when they are drab, you'd think people would see them more often, but it's actually because they're out in the open ocean when it is not breeding season. Oh, Taylor just pulled up a question here, it looks like. Oh, it sounds like the audio is breaking up a bit. All right, well, we will attempt to keep our audio fixed. I'm wondering if where I stepped over to that camera wasn't working so well. So please let us know. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to type those on in the chat, or you can text us at that number at the beginning. So we're going to try and get our audio a little crisper for you. But let's pull up the tufted puffins here real quick, so we can look at them up close as well. As I was saying, these puffins, when they're in their drab colors, they actually are the least likely to be seen by people because they will go out into the open ocean. So here is one of those tufted puffins, again with the tufts. Now, we're going to talk about that area on their bill. There's kind of a strange spot on the puffin's bill that grows in, so we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But people oftentimes, when they see the dark puffins in the winter, they can't tell if it is a tufted puffin or a horned puffin. And there is a difference, even without the face masks, even without the tufts and the horns, there's a way to tell. And that is whether they are an all black bird or if they have a lighter stomach. Our kittiwakes are being quite loud right now. So the tufted puffins have a solid black body, but those horned puffins that we saw earlier, they have a little white belly, a lighter belly. And in fact, we have some footage of their babies. And even as babies, you can tell this difference. So here is a baby puffin, and it has a lighter chest. So that is a baby horned puffin. And then we have, here in just a moment, we're going to have a baby tufted puffin. And you'll see, outside of that coloration, they look very similar. They are just little balls of fluff. So here's one there. Was getting fed on a scale. So we will check on them throughout their development. We don't have any eggs just yet because breeding season has just really kind of tipped its toe in. It's not quite there yet, but we have seen a lot of puffins running around with grass. So we're going to kind of check that out because when you come in here and you just see a puffin sort of carrying a mouthful of grass around, you might assume it's building a nest. You are correct. We actually put nesting material out for these animals. It's in this crate, so they can't just, or the grass can't just blow away, but they have to come over and grab mouthfuls of this grass. And they kind of walk around. So when people see our puffins doing this, they go, oh, where are the nests? Where are the nests? And they're looking around for these nests. Kind of like this puffin here seems a little confused and looking around, but that is because these nests are actually underground. So puffins nest under the ground. They actually dig these burrows. And you're going to see here, this, if you're paying attention here in the aviary, this is what you'll see them do with the grass, is they'll just go right down in a hole. And all of the burrows here have their own little address number. And we can show you a little more about those burrows, because we only just opened them. So in the winter, they are blocked with rocks. We don't want them getting down in there and making a big mess. They don't really care about the burrows in the wintertime. They want them for breeding season. So just the past couple weeks, they opened these burrows up. There's quite a few of them. Some of them are pretty high up on the cliff. So Laura, if you remember her from previous visits to the aviary here, She had to climb on up on the cliff and open up some of those burrows. But you can see each one has a number. And some of them seem really, really close to each other. There are quite a lot out here, but like this shot here shows, you've got 17 right next to 16. It seems really, really close, but it's kind of misleading because these burrows can go pretty far back. In the wild, puffins can actually dig 10 or more feet underground to make their burrows. Here, some of them go back about 12 to 14 feet, but they all terminate in these black boxes back on the wall of the aviary. And you can see the numbers are written up on those boxes. And in fact, it's not just this wall, but kind of like back behind the other cliffside there are even more of those burrow boxes. So the puffins will decide on a burrow, they'll take their nesting material back there, and that is where they'll end up nesting. And I actually brought a burrow box out. We've got kind of like a little example burrow box here that we could show you. And so usually they're sealed up. We don't want to pester the birds if we can help it. But on the inside, of course, we have a little woodcut there, but they will just take that grass down in there. They'll stuff it on in. Now, the grass on here is pretty nice, but these nests do get quite messy after some use. The parents do try to keep them a little cleaner, but they're going to be doing some preening in there. There might be some waste in there, but once they have an egg and that egg hatches out, then that baby makes a real bad mess of these. If you can imagine just a baby living in a crib 24 hours of its day, that crib's going to get a little messy. Looks like we got a question.
Yeah. So we have a question. Can the puffins get out?
Get out of the aviary, perhaps? Well, the sun is pretty bad in here right now. It's kind of backlighting me quite a lot, but I will zoom in and we'll see. We'll see if I can show. Nope, you can't see it. It looks like they could just fly right out, but there is, believe it or not, some netting back there. The sun is so bright right now. So no, this aviary is netted over, and that's obviously we don't want our puffins just flying out into the parking lot, but it also keeps other birds from getting in. A lot of times people see our kittiwakes and they go, oh, why'd you put seagulls in here, right? They are a type of gull, but they are very fascinating birds, and they are in here deliberately. Most of our birds in here were either hatched here. We do allow a certain number of birds per year to kind of hatch their eggs out and raise those young. Or a lot of these birds are also from past research programs. There's the kittiwake. Past research programs either here at the center or at other facilities. Like we've received some birds from universities, for example, that have done behavioral studies or done health studies on these birds. And then when they're done with that study, they've got a bunch of birds that can't be released back out into the wild. And so they contact facilities like the Alaska SeaLife Center and say, hey, can you take care of these birds? And yes, we can. And we'll bring them here. So these birds cannot get out. These are birds that can't be released back out to the wild. Now, we do get birds in through our wildlife response program. That's sort of our wildlife rehab program. And a lot of times it's just a case where a bird kind of not expected in the bay gets blown in on a storm. We've got some birds that are expected much further out. They'll get blown in on storm fronts. Or maybe the wind, maybe the food hasn't been so good for them. So sometimes we'll get birds that are a little malnourished. And so a lot of times the rehab procedure is just make sure there's nothing broken. Nope, they're fine. They're just really hungry. So we'll feed them some fish and we'll get them back out in the wild. If birds can't be released from wildlife response, then of course we're going to look at, can we keep them here? Should another facility take them? And we do have two birds here that are actually from rescue programs. One of our tufted puffins and one of our oyster catchers, our black oyster catchers, is actually from a wildlife response program. Another question, it looks like.
Yes. So a very good question, actually. How do you know if they have an egg? So I'm assuming puffins. How do you know that they have eggs?
All right, that's a perfect question. So if you tuned in for our scale session program, it was right back there on that shore there. They do something called a scale session every day where they are weighing the birds. So they set down a weight scale. The birds all sort of line up, and one at a time they'll hop up on the scale. They'll get rewarded with a fish. They'll hop down. But that lets our avian staff, our aviculturists, it lets them see what the weight is of that animal. And obviously, we're looking for, are they holding steady? We don't want them gaining a lot of weight. We don't want them losing a lot of weight. But for breeding season, it can also tell us when the female has started to develop her egg because her weight will increase. Now, the other thing is of course, At some point, one of them is going to disappear into the burrow and just not really come out very often. And so that could be a sign that, oh, maybe they're getting ready to lay the egg up in that burrow, but mostly just looking at that weight. Another question, it looks like.
Yeah, a follow-up to that. So do they lay eggs every season?
I believe they'll lay an egg every season. The puffins, the alcids, just lay one egg, and it's pretty costly for them. So even if that egg's not going to hatch out, either we're not going to hatch it, or maybe it's just not fertilized. This does happen where they'll lay an egg that just never hatches. Something might happen in development there as well. We'll swap that egg if anything happens to it, or if we have to take it out to incubate it. We'll swap it with a dummy egg, and that is because we don't want them to just be like, oh no, my egg's gone, I need to lay another, because it's pretty costly resource-wise for that bird to lay the egg. On a puffin, I mean, it's a substantial size egg for this little tiny bird. But yeah, they'll lay each year, and then just that one egg for our puffins.
A couple other questions coming in on YouTube.
Perfect. All right.
So, do both the males and females participate in nest building?
Oh, that's a great question. Can we pull up? Let's pull up the horned puffins there. So that's a great question. Males, females, do they both participate? Yes. And that's the thing about puffins is that whereas when we were talking about the ducks, the males are super colorful, the females are kind of brown. Sorry if the kittiwakes are being loud. The females and ducks are brown to blend in with the nests. Puffins don't have to worry about that. They're underground, and both male and female puffins look exactly the same. They look identical. And so in the ducks, that colorful male, if he sat on the nest, that's a problem, right? But underground, the puffins don't care. So both male and female will take care of that egg and help build the nest as well. Sometimes they have critiques of each other, like one of the puffins will go in and kind of put the grass down in a certain way, and the other puffin will go in and be like, I don't like this, and they'll like throw some of the grass out or they'll move it around. And of course, the burrow selection is a whole process as well. They tend to go for the same burrows year after year. We do see pretty good site fidelity, but sometimes there's a little drama, and someone wants another burrow, so it happens. It looks like more questions.
Yes.
All right.
So one of these, how many eggs do they lay in a year? Will you repeat that?
Yeah, so for our puffins and like our murs, our alcids, they'll lay one egg. And so that it's a large egg for the murs and the puffins and our Rhinoceros auklets, which we haven't even gotten to the other alcids. So let's actually pull up that Rhinoceros auklet that I was just talking about.
Before we do that,
one more
question.
Right.
How deep can puffins swim?
Oh, how deep can they swim? Well, our tank here is only 22 feet deep, and all of our alcids can get to the bottom of that easy. Out in the wild, puffins can get past 100, even past 200 feet in the search for food. Now, if they are diving down and they find food in the first 10 feet, they're just going to stop there. They're going to eat that food. But if they have to go down deeper, they will. And let's actually pull up. We've got some footage of them swimming around, our diving birds. And this first one's going to be a murre, a common murre, which is an alcid we haven't talked about just yet. But look at the wings. So this is very slow. It's just playing around with some algae down there. But they actually use their wings to essentially fly underwater. And these murres, these are the deepest diving birds we have. They've been found down deeper than 500 or even 600 feet underwater looking for food. Now, they are very fast, so that was a slow-mo, but here you're going to see a puffin come cruising by while we were diving, cleaning the tank. So there's a tufty. Just cruising on by. Just grabbing, just playing, and seeing if there's anything good down there. A lot of times when we're diving, they'll come check you out, especially if you have something like a light on. And were there any other questions there? Not yet. All right. So if you have any other questions, remember you can type those in the chat. If you're not watching live, you can, of course, leave a comment. We'll try to get to that. Or we run that number at the beginning when we're live. You can text us at that as well. Let's pull up the murres, since we were just talking about the murres. So the murres are a fun one. Whereas the puffins actually sort of nest, they have a burrow. The murres are entirely the opposite way. They don't go underground. They don't build a nest. Much like penguins, they will actually keep the egg on their feet. You can see how those feet kind of lay really flat on the ground, and they'll actually keep the egg there just like penguins. And a lot of times people come to the SeaLife Center, they see our birds, they go, oh my gosh, they have penguins. We don't have any penguins here at the SeaLife Center. In fact, alcids are more closely related to the ducks that we have here than they are to penguins. The similarity comes in a lot of their coloration, this black and white. For the murres, also kind of their posture, I would say, and how they keep that egg. But one of the big differences is that our birds can still fly. They're not like penguins in that they can't fly. They don't fly particularly well, but they can still fly. Looks like we have our rhinoceros auklet in that shot as well. So let's talk about them while we've got them. So this is arguably our third type of puffin. This is a rhinoceros auklet. You can see that little. We're getting dive bombed now by the kittiwake. One moment. Oh, they're being loud. All right. So the rhinoceros auklet is very closely related to puffins. In fact, it seems like every other year there's a big push of, yes, they are a puffin. No, they're not a puffin. They are closely related. And you can see that horn on their bill. So that is a special structure called a rampotheca. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the rhinoceros auklets are very interesting because they have those face tufts. Hopefully those kittiwakes aren't being too loud. All right.
So Alex, over the kittiwakes, because they're pretty loud, but we got a comment saying that thank you for trying to fix the audio. It's definitely improved, so that's awesome. But another question, which bird in the aviary has been with us the longest?
Oh, gosh. Well, we have the oyster catcher, I believe, is our oldest bird. And I'm blanking on exactly how old. Do you remember how old?
29, I believe.
It sounds about right. They're
Born in 1993.
Okay, yeah. And so that one's been with us quite a while. But puffins, some of our puffins have been with us the longest. And boy, the kittiwakes are just having a field day right now. Now they're calming down a little bit. Any other questions there? All right, looks like we got one.
Yes, so back to puffins. Do puffins mate for life?
Ooh, do puffins? I don't know how close that one got to my head just now. Do puffins mate for life was the question. Yeah, we do see them pair up, and we see a lot of monogamous relationships with them where they'll find the same pair or partner year after year after year. That's not to say it doesn't sometimes get broken up. They do, swap partners occasionally, and if something happened to one of the partners, the other one would find a new partner. The kittiwakes are just screaming about something right now. Sorry, they're very distracting. So they do mostly mate for life. Yes.
We have a request to go back to the burrows video.
Okay, yes.
And will you just re-explain kind of the burrows and how far back they go?
Yeah, I can do that. All right, so the burrows, they are blocked up in the wintertime. So what we've got here is Laura unblocking the burrows, actually taking these rocks out. So we block them up just to keep them from going down in there. They're not going to use them, but if they go down in there and they're using the bathroom or dragging fish down there and not eating it necessarily, that just makes a mess. So there's lots of these burrows, and they are scattered on the cliffs here. Some of them are actually up a decent ways, so you got to kind of climb up to them. But it's not like you want to know sort of how do they link up in the back and how far back do they go. So in the wild, puffins dig these burrows. They actually will dig, and they can dig more than 10 feet back. They might even get 15 feet on the ground or more. And here at the SeaLife Center, our burrows, some of them go really far back. You can see there's a pipe. There's like a corrugated plastic tubing in there. And that goes back, on some of these burrows, that goes back like 12 feet or more. And it goes into the aviary, it goes into the avian curatorial area behind the aviary. We're in the aviary right now. And those pipes lead to these boxes. You can see some of the pipes are exposed. Those aren't used anymore as burrows. We might put a box back up there and use that burrow again, but we can swap out which burrows are being used if we need to. And so each of those boxes is the actual burrow box. And that's what I had shown a little bit earlier. So I hope that kind of cleared it up. The burrow on the outside, the puffins go in that and they'll crawl all the way back down, all the way into that burrow box to the very bottom. That's where they'll stuff all that grass and moss for their nesting. And that's where they'll have their egg. All right. Any other questions while we're here? All right, another one.
Could you say the name of the structure again that is on the bill of the rhinoceros?
And actually I'm going to show it
and what it does.
I'm going to
Wait,
show
do
you that
rhinoceros
structure.
auklets have ramphithecus as well?
Yes. So
Okay.
let's pull up our camera here because I have some ramphithecus. It's a weird name. And I don't have any from a rhinoceros auklet, but the little horn on the auklet's bill is their form of this. So this is from a puffin. And you can see this. We'll pull up some close-ups of the puffins after this. But you can actually see on here that this falls off. It's kind of got like a fingernail sort of consistency to it. It's just like keratin. And it will fall off of these birds. So this is a structure that they grow in to reinforce the tops of their bills. And they'll use those bills for both digging their nest. They can use their little claws. They can kind of use their bills to sort of push their way on in. But they'll also use this in some breeding behaviors where they'll knock the bills against each other. They'll go up to their partner and like knock those bills. And so this just reinforces that. And it gives it a little bit of color. Let's pull up a close-up of, our horned puffins, I think we'll look here. So you can see where it is. It's up against the face, that yellow area. And that grows in for breeding season. It gives them a kind of a strange coloration on their bill, but it will fall off, and we can actually find them afterwards. They're pretty fragile, so we don't find a ton, but they will shed those. And even if we pull up the tufted puffin, that will be on there as well. So you can see that up on the front. I mentioned before, actually, this is a great shot here. I mentioned before that we have both male and female puffins, and they're identical, right? The tufted puffins, male and female look the same, and then horned puffins, male and female look the same. And the way we tell the difference, and this actually goes for all of our alcids, is we band them either on the left or the right leg. So on here you can see this one is banded on the left, so that is a female, and we use different color bands. I can actually show you that as well. We kind of have a little cheat sheet. Our avian staff have to memorize a lot of different color bands. And so I'll put this on the overhead here. And we will show you that we've kind of got this sheet of who's what. So we've got like Harriet, who was born in 97. So she's our oldest of the tufted puffins. But you've got all these birds, and they all have different band colors. Some of them have multiple colors. Some of them just have one little color. So those are our birds there. So that's how we tell them apart. So we have talked about our two types of puffins. We've talked briefly about that rhinoceros auklet and the murs. So there's one other type of alcid here that we haven't seen yet, and that is our pigeon guillemot. So this is our smallest little alcid here. And I have a tough time finding them a lot of times nowadays, but we've got some close-up shots, and I'll see if I can point them out a little later. So this is a smaller alcid. It doesn't get quite as brightly colored as the puffins. And so they actually only really get this white stripe on them. I had someone one time come into the SeaLife Center and call them the Adidas bird because they've kind of got like the Adidas logo on them, and I thought it was cool. But yeah, they have this white Adidas logo, or chevron if you want, and that is their marking. And so these are a bit smaller. They also burrow, as do the rhinoceros auklets, but they're more opportunistic in their burrows. They'll basically find any little hole in the rocks that they can work their way down into and lay their nests. They're not as prolific diggers as the puffins are. Right. Any other questions there?
No questions, but I see Han.
Oh, Han.
You were gonna find him.
I was gonna find him. Let's
yes.
see if I can get him.
Let's get back to
so just really quick, we're gonna look because Han is one of our juveniles, juvenile tufted puffins. And so I mentioned before that he's not going to have that coloration. So there he is. He's just starting to get his tufts in, but that's about all he's going to get this year is that amount of tufts. And so they look like this for about the first 2 to 3 years of their life. And this is also what the adults will look like. There he is getting a snack. This is also what the adults will look like in the winter time. And you can see where the ramphithecus would be up on the nose there, up on the bill. That is much darker. It's not that light color. And so he's like, are you talking about me? That's Han. Han's very, very sweet, but he's very young. And because breeding season's coming up, everyone's getting really excited about it. And he's the youngest puffin here. And he's like, I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. So we're just keeping an eye on him, making sure he's not getting in anyone's way. Sometimes a curious puffin will like stick his head in someone else's burrow, be like, what's going on in there? And they don't like that. So we just got to make sure that he stays preoccupied with his own games for now. But we're hoping that he'll have a partner maybe next year. We do have kind of a girlfriend we're hoping he'll pair up with, but so far she likes him a lot. But he's just kind of like, I don't get it. I don't know what's going on this year. So, but just wanted to give you a look at what they look like, and that again is what they'll look like in the winter time. The adults even will look like that in the winter time. Any final questions there? All right. Well, let's see if there's anyone out. I was looking to see. Oh, we've got some pigeon guillemots over there. I'm just going to use this camera because I think our other camera, I think, is what was causing our audio issues earlier. So excuse me while I zoom in. Right now, the sun is almost on that rock, and so we've got our pigeon guillemots hanging out there, waiting maybe for the sun. So those are our final type of alcid here. And we'll see if we have any final questions, and then I think we'll kind of wrap up.
Yes.
All right.
If you were there in person, can we watch you do the live virtual visits?
Oh, yes. So if you come visit us on a Wednesday at 11 a.m., we're probably somewhere in the center doing this program. The question was, could they see us doing this program live? Yes, but as I mentioned, summer's coming up. We've only got a couple more weeks of programming for our virtual visits as they are right now. Then we're going to get into our really busy summer season. We're going to pull back a little bit on this programming, but we're hoping to still provide you with programming through the summer. And then in the fall, as school season here in the U.S. starts back up, we'll actually be coming back with a whole new season and a kind of a redesigned virtual visit. But whenever you're here at the SeaLife Center, always keep an eye out because we don't just do virtual visits. We also have a virtual small fry program, which is for like pre-K, a younger audience. It's really fun. They've got activities. There's like story time. And they talk about a lot of the same animals that you see here. So if you know someone who might be interested in that, those are live Tuesdays at 11 a.m. here at the Alaska SeaLife Center. We've got a whole playlist of them on our YouTube channel. So that's our virtual small fry. And then we also just do digital learning around the whole center. So we get requests from classes across the U.S. Or other groups. There's like we'll dial into libraries that put us up on a big screen, and like school groups or summer camps can come in and talk to us across the country, even outside of the U.S. We get programs in Australia and over in Korea. It's pretty fun. So even if you come on a day we're not doing this program, you might still see us talking to a computer, talking to a camera, and helping bring everyone around the world to the Alaska SeaLife Center virtually. So with that, we want to thank our sponsors for this program. And that's Royal Caribbean Group this year, allowing us to bring you to the SeaLife Center free every Wednesday at 11 a.m. With these virtual visits. And we are very thankful that we were able to do that because we understand, not everyone can make it to Alaska. Hopefully someday you can. Hopefully you can come on and visit us in person. But until then, we're more than glad to share what we have here online with you. And we hope that you've been enjoying these virtual visits as well. So with that, I think we're going to sign off. If there's any questions we haven't gotten to just yet, just sit tight. We'll try to answer those in the chat. But otherwise, thank you for visiting us again today. And until next time, have a great day.